This is Wild Randy Films back with video number 2 on the Bayonet build. Okay, in the first video I ended with that I was going to explain to you why or which one you should choose, whether it be a stock reduction, which is where you would take this blank and you would either take a sander or a belt grinder or an angle grinder or just an assortment of files and file down the entire blade to whatever shape you want. Now with this blank, when I first got it, I wanted to see the temper on it, so I went ahead and took a file to it. And I don't know, you probably can't really see it in the video, but right here I took a file to it and I only made a few swipes and it cut in pretty deep. So I know that this has no temper in it. This is very soft right now, and if you are another person who has gotten one of these from Mike or has some of these from another source, it would be very easy to just use files. But as I'm about to explain, depending on what you're going to use this for, it might be best to use a forge. If you're just wanting a nice looking blade that you can spit out pretty fast, then use your files. Do that way, or your grinder or whatever, and and then temper it, and then harden and temper it, of course. But if you want a good blade that's going to last a long time, cut really well, and hold an edge, then you're going to want to use a forge, and this is why. Okay, let's say this is a side view, like this way, or maybe even this way, of this blank. All these little blue dots are the molecules inside the steel. As you can see, they're pretty evenly spaced out across the steel. Now, if you're going to want to put an edge on this, there's two ways of doing it. This is a grinded edge, and this is a forged edge. Now, you can see the difference that here's the edge, not too many molecules. Here's the edge of a forged blade material, a lot more molecules, and this is why. Whenever you grind the steel, the molecules are simply taken away completely. You take away the molecules. As you can see here, there's no forcing together of the molecules. They're simply taken away and cut out completely. Those molecules are just gone. They're wasted. Probably never to be used again. On the other hand, forging, what you're doing is you're taking this blank and you're squeezing it down. It's kind of like if you were to, what's a good example? Okay, rocks, for example. Rocks. Rocks are pretty much compacted dirt, and you can obviously tell a big difference between dirt and rocks. Rocks are not filed away, they are compressed. And when they're compressed, they harden. All those molecules get forced together to make a much more durable product. Now I've got dirt and things all over my paper. Now, with metal, that's the same thing you're doing. Instead of taking away the molecules, you're forcing them together at the edge to make a much, much harder and stronger edge than you would have with even if it's proper, and this is if it's properly hardened and tempered. Even with the proper hardening and tempering, this blade will not hold up to as much abuse as this blade. Now, since this blade does not have as many molecules, on the other hand, it will curl. A lot of these blades will curl with too much use, and anybody who uses a lot of knives will know what I'm talking about. You'll be using the blade and then you'll look at it and it'll be sharp one way but dull the other. That's because the actual edge of the blade has curled where there's not so many molecules to hold and stiffen that edge. On the other hand, with this one, you will not have a problem with the curling. But the very edge of this blade will be brittle. It will get much sharper and hold its edge much longer, but you cannot hit this edge. You cannot make mistakes and hit this edge. Let's say this edge here. Very, very sharp edge. If I think it's still sharp. Let's see. Yeah, it's pretty sharp. This edge here will not roll. I mean, even though it's a thick piece of metal, that has nothing to do with it. This edge is very fine, and it will not roll. Neither will that one. But let's say I was out in the woods, and I was trying to cut up a root system. For whatever reason, whether I wanted to make a decorative handle walking stick or something else, I was down and I was digging in the roots and I was trying to get out a root system. Let's say I was cutting through roots and all of a sudden I'm going through a large root and I'm pushing really hard and it goes clean through and slips. What if this rock was sitting here? Let's imagine this is a rock. If I slip and hit that, there's a good chance that I'm going to have a small chip. Now it'll be small because this compression doesn't follow the entire blade. As you can see here, there's the same amount of molecules that was here are still in the back of the blade. But here, they're all condensed, they're all together, and since they're all so tight together, there's not a lot of room for them to move. So instead of curling, which is what these here would do, instead of curling, they don't have the room to curl, because these, if they curl, they're just going to condense the ones next to them together. Here, where they're already condensed, instead of curling, they're going to have nowhere to go, and they're going to chip off and break. So you'll have tiny chips in your blade wherever you have accidentally hit. Now, it doesn't mean you can just go and they'll chip off. I mean, you really got to get some force into it, but they will chip. And that's just experience and knowing how to use your blade and how to, and I'm not saying you have to baby these things. They will do wonderfully on wood and things that knives are meant to go through. Flesh, bone, whatever. But as far as, I mean, yes, bone. You can clean clear through bone, and it will not chip these blades because they're so hard. But on a surface such as rock or other steels, you run the possibility of it chipping. But I would much prefer a blade chip than roll, because a blade that rolls you're going to have to sharpen 20,000 times. But as long as you're smart and know how to use blades, you will not have to worry about rolling in a properly forged blade. Now, for this series of videos, I will be forging this blank. It will be forged, and it will turn out to be a proper strength blade for what I intend it to be used for. Now, as far as the style of blade, I haven't really decided yet. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but if this was to be factory finished, this edge here would be the sharp edge, and this edge here would either have some sort of decorative toothing put into it, or just left completely flat. And then there would be, I believe it's called the tongue or something like that, which is more or less a creak or a small indentation that runs the length of the blade. That way, whenever you were to puncture flesh, that would leave air able to come through. That way, it would not get stuck in the flesh and it would pull out easily. Depending on what I decide as far as style to do to this blade, I haven't decided whether I want to put that indentation in it or not. This is not rust, this is just dirt where I left it out last night and it was sitting on the ground. Some of it's rust, but you know, all this material, when you put it in the forge, all the rust falls off anyway, so it's no big deal. But I'm also debating on whether or not to put this decorative, I don't know if you can see that on this camera. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. Can't really tell. But maybe you can see it over here. There it is. I have these decorative teeth put into this, and I think I'll probably upload some pictures of it, but you can see this one a little better, I think, maybe. Yeah, there we go. There's these decorative file patterns put into it, and some chimping, which is just to help you grip it with your thumb, and then there's some decorative file patterns on the back. And I have two separate ones on this one. On this side, I have, I'm just going to call it circle, corner, circle, corner, circle, corner, and on this side I have circle, 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 which are longer and they go into the blade more and they almost look like claw marks have scratched through it. But this is all for video number 2. This is explaining why I think you should forge blades instead of stock removal, even with proper. Now there are some hard metals which you can do it and get away with it, but no matter what, if you forge metal, it turns out much better than if you stock remove it, no matter what the tempering process is.